Well, I want to welcome you to the Friday afternoon Sex and Healing Relationship interactive webinar, where we welcome your questions, whether it's on the topic I'm going to present today or any other questions in general that you might have. I am Debbie McRae. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a certified sex addiction therapist. I work in Arizona, and in my private practice, I work with betrayed partners. I work with couples who are dealing with the effects of sex and pornography addiction in the relationship. And I work with individuals, and pretty soon I'll be having some of my own groups that I will be facilitating. Of course, as I've mentioned many times before, I'm very passionate about healing women and men who experience betrayal trauma from porn and sex addiction because I've had my own journey in that. So I just see people healing with some of the concepts and the things that I'm going to even present to you today. So today's topic, again, comes from, a client that came in and asked a question. So today we're going to talk about letting go, surrendering, and forgiveness. So what's the difference and how do you do it? And why am I being told by other people or even by myself that I need to be doing this as part of my recovery work? So here's what's showing up. I have betrayed partners come in who will say things like, I am never going to forgive him or her. I don't see how I'll ever get over this. I also hear people coming in and saying, my friend, my church leader, even my addict partner has told me I just need to forgive them. And this might be early in the recovery process when the betrayed partner is so overwhelmed. I also hear the betrayed partner say, if I let this go, if I surrender or I forgive, then I'm going to forget what betrayal feels like. And I need to feel this way so that I can maybe step into my power, or I can feel like I can maybe even stay in my anger because I need it right now for survival. Another thing that I hear betrayed partners say is if I let it go, surrender, or forgive, then I'm giving my addict partner permission to betray me again. So it's kind of like I'm getting them, permission to not only offend again, but it's kind of like I'm giving them a get out of jail free card. And then, like I said, if I don't forgive and I don't let go and I don't surrender, then it helps me to feel in control of my situation. So while these are distinct concepts, you're going to see that there's a lot of overlap in these. And so I've tried to kind of simplify it as we go through and we talk about it so you can understand the difference. I do want to make several points, though, regarding the concept of letting go, surrendering, and forgiveness in regards to betrayal trauma. You need to understand that it is nearly impossible in the earlier stages of recovery to expect yourself to be able to do this. One of the first places I start in working with betrayed partners is figuring out what you can let go of control over. And many times it's focusing on the addict partner's recovery that they're doing, how often they're seeing their therapist, if they're going to group, things like that. Maybe letting go of some of those safety-seeking behaviors that they are doing that are not healthy, that are creating dysregulation in their system. So they're having a hard time creating that balance, that emotional regulation for themselves. So it's a gradual process. And so we build upon this as we work through the healing. Because a part of this we have to also put into place before we get to the letting go, surrendering, and the forgiveness stages. We have to mourn the losses. We have to experience the grief associated with betrayal. And we've talked about that in the past. So I want you to understand the concepts I'm talking about today are really towards that latter part of recovery. Last time we met, I kind of talked about the different kind of phases of recovery that I see betrayed partners go through. So we're talking about some of this post-traumatic growth type stuff, or this really high level, I'm doing my recovery, I'm feeling emotionally regulated, I'm able to begin connecting again with my partner, my addict partner, or I've made the choice to move on because the relationship is not going to work. Okay. I want you to know it's a normal reaction for a betrayed partner to not want to let go, surrender, or forgive. Just know it's normal. They've been hurt. Trust has been shattered. This creates so much fear. There's mistrust, there's resentment. Those are real big, heavy emotions. And again, like I said, you've got to work through those, and you've got to be able to understand what it's there and what it's attached to and what it's doing for you in the moment and what it could do for you in the future and how it may affect you in a positive way and negative way. You need to know that these responses are important and good, and according to the betrayed partner in the early parts of their recovery. But getting stuck in the resentment, holding on to the pain and the hurt, can actually block the recovery progress of the betrayed partner. And so when we get to this point in our recovery where we're working on letting go, surrendering, and forgiving, it's a very conscious decision. You're now at a point in your recovery where you can start to choose little bits and pieces of this. It's highly personalized, and each betrayed partner gets to do it in their own way. And I really encourage my betrayed partners to follow their hearts when they're getting ready to do this. Okay, so let's talk about the difference between letting go, surrendering, and forgiveness. So in letting go, it refers to releasing any attachments, expectations, negative emotions tied to a person, a situation, or an outcome. In betrayed partners, I really see the outcome piece of it. I have an idea in my mind of how this needs to turn out. I have an idea in my mind of what recovery looks like for my addict partner. And so at some point, I have to release any attachments that I have. It means I have to consciously detach myself emotionally, mentally, from something that's causing me distress. So I have to make a choice to not let whatever's holding me back or creating distress in me is affecting me in the moment. The wonderful thing about learning to let go is that it frees the betrayed partner up. They no longer live in the past and they're kind of ruminating through all the things that happened to them. I also find that they're not projecting into the future, that fear of how things are going to be in the future. So I look at letting go as kind of a release of control. Okay, surrendering is a little bit different. It implies accepting what is, even when it's difficult and it's beyond your control. So I have to give up my resistance to whatever the situation is at hand, and I kind of have to let life flow. So how that shows up for the betrayed partner is the betrayed partner who comes into group or to my office saying, you know what, it doesn't matter anymore how this is going to turn out, or it doesn't matter what my addict partner's doing. I know that I've got the skills and tools to be okay. I can handle it. And I see the betrayed partner stepping into their power, and all of a sudden there's this confidence. So they make a conscious choice to release the negative emotions that are associated with the past events and associated with the actions of others. So I'm surrendering that because as I focus on that, it's creating in me distress and pain. So like I said, it's in the moment. So I recognize when I'm in this and I choose in the moment to accept what is and then to move forward. So it is a really wonderful way to finally get that inner peace that you want. And it's hard, it really is. And we're going to talk in a moment about some of the skills and tools that you can use in order to actually accomplish that. Okay, forgiveness. Forgiveness is the act of pardoning or letting go of resentment, anger, or the desire for revenge towards the addict partner, person who has wronged you and betrayed you. It's a conscious choice to let go of the negative emotions that are associated with this past event and the actions of your addict partner. It is, again, another way of accomplishing and achieving that inner peace and that inner healing, not only for you as the betrayed partner, but if you are remaining in the relationship with the addict partner, it also benefits the relationship as well. So Why do you even want to consider letting go, surrendering, or forgiving? Well, there's a lot of studies that I read out there that really indicate that these practices really benefit the betrayed partner physiologically, psychologically, socially. There is a groundedness, there is the ability to live in the present moment that occurs when you're able to do that. There's emotional healing that takes place. So I'm now releasing all the negative emotions. Maybe I'm learning from them, I'm shifting them, I'm changing them. And in that personal growth, the healing occurs. So I'm no longer caught and stuck in my thoughts or caught and stuck in old patterns that are taking me, like I say, down the rabbit hole again and again and again. It also helps with your mental health because, again, like I said, if I only focus on negative experiences in my life and I choose not to let them go, surrender them, or forgive whatever it is I need to around that, then I'm going to constantly have a negative focus in my life. So what that means is my thoughts are going to take me into, a place of depression, sadness, anxiety. And so when I choose to step out of that, those areas improve. Um, Letting go and surrendering and forgiving connects us to our choices and our personal power. That's another reason why we want to do it. I'm stepping back into my power. A lot of times I tell my clients and my group members that when I'm in this space, there's no drama. I'm feeling very, very connected to prefrontal cortex, to that executive functioning part of my brain. And sometimes it feels strange to be here because you're so used to the drama, you're so used to being in that limbic part of your brain that when you start letting things go and that kind of peace and that settling comes in, I do find clients going, I'm not sure I know how to live in this space. So recognize that sometimes it does feel that way because there is a settling, there is a peace that comes. It also helps the betrayed partner really tap into who they really are. So, for example, if I've got a betrayed partner who's experienced a lot of anger, even rage, and they come in and they say to me, I have never had anger. I have never ever raged before in my life. This isn't who I really am. But since the betrayal, since I found out, since it was disclosed to me, I have become this person I don't recognize. So when we work through this by letting go, surrendering, and forgiving, then all of a sudden we're stepping back into who we really are because that's part of the healing process. As we work through all of these, it also helps us to rebuild relationships, not only with ourselves, but also with our family, with the addict partner, if that's what's going to be taking place in your life. And so it's important that we can't hold on to all the betrayal because it's going to constantly challenge us and our trust in other people. So at some point, we have to let go of control and learn to trust again. Or we have to surrender the fear that somebody could hurt us again. Or sometimes we need to even forgive our addict partner so I can choose to move towards you again. Okay. So let's talk about some letting go practices. So I'm going to call these the I choose to release. So when I think about letting go, I mentioned it's about releasing. I mentioned it's a choice. So I'm going to give you some ideas of how I recommend group members and my clients do this. One is to learn to start acknowledging your emotions. Many of us are not taught how to really recognize and sit in and process emotions. So we have to accept whatever emotion comes. One of the things I recommend is you even say it out loud. If you are having a difficult time, I do have people that go, you know what, I just won't get angry. I hated my mom was angry. I'm not going to ever get angry. But yet they're so angry because they've experienced betrayal. So one of the things I recommend is, well, as that comes up, how does it feel in your body? So notice where it is in your body and then say out loud, you know what, I'm really angry right now. Give yourself permission to experience it. So you can even just notice where it's in your body. You can do your breathing. You can even use some of your visualization skills and tools. And just imagine as you're breathing, maybe you're breathing in and releasing the anger. And as you exhale out, it's leaving your body. That's a really, really important skill and tool to learn is we have to understand and acknowledge our emotions. We have to recognize where we're feeling in our body, and then we have to work with our bodies to release it. We also need to spend some time as we're letting go and reflecting on the situation. So you would get a journal and you're going to make a list of what it would mean if you were to let it go. So you're going to make a list of all the things you're holding on to in one column. And in the next column, next to whatever you've written, you're going to write the impact of holding on to it is for you and the benefits for moving on and letting it go. So you can see. I recommend you put it in your journal because at times you're going to be faced moment by moment on certain days where you're having to make the choice to let it go. And if you're struggling, it's a great place to go back to when you're in this place, when you're really grounded and you're writing these words down to remind yourself of the reasons why you're choosing to let it go and reminding yourself of maybe some of the adverse consequences of holding on to it. The third thing you can do is I really like practicing self-compassion because sometimes it really is hard to let it go. And it's okay. In this moment, I'm really struggling to let it go. This is a moment of suffering. And a lot of women who've experienced betrayal trauma can really relate to what I'm going through. And I need to remind myself that letting go is a process. And I'm working on it currently, and I'm getting better day by day. And that makes me good enough. Or that doesn't mean I'm not letting go. That means I'm in the process of learning how to let it go. So be very kind and gentle with yourself because this is hard to let go of. It's hard to let go of the pain. It's hard to let go of control. It's hard to let go of the fear of the future. It really is. It's easier to say it than to actually do it. Think about as you're struggling with this, what would your really wise, logical best friend say to you? What would be their advice? What would they tell you to say to yourself in that moment? And then do that. Okay, number 4, identify what you can control. We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. So I want you to make a list now of the things I do have control over so that you can focus on those things you can control. So then you can choose your actions and how you're going to respond moving forward. And basically the rule is the only thing you have control over is you as the betrayed partner or you as the addict partner. That's the simple truth. So I have to figure out how to direct my energy. So am I going to direct it towards things I can influence, towards things I can actually change, or am I going to hit my head up against the wall because I'm trying to control everything around me? Okay. I love the fact that we can use thought stopping because there's typically stories that are attached to this, especially when I'm going and feeling fear and I want to control. So use your thought stopping. Tell yourself to stop it. I'm not going to go there. That isn't completely true. And then remind yourself what the facts are, the truth, and then reframe it. And the more you do that, then the less frequently you're going to go into those stories. So that's really important. Journaling is another great way. You've got to learn how to express your feelings, and you've got to do it in a healthy way. So that means you need to talk to a trusted friend. You need to write in your journal. You need to find an outlet for that. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be the addict partner. In fact, it's really good if you turn to other people as often as possible. And you turn to the addict partner when it's really, really important and you need their help in processing your emotions and in co-regulation. Remember that the addict partner is still trying to figure out how to manage and handle their own emotions. So if you go to them and wanting to share emotions and having them have empathy and help you, somehow regulate your emotions, most of them are going to do very poorly in the early days of their recovery, the early months. So you've got to remember that we've got to have people we can go to. You can take and express your feelings, not only in a journal, you can do artwork. I've had group members go out and join dance groups where they're using their bodies to kind of work through emotions. So think about, what can I do that will bring me relief in this moment from this very, very difficult emotion? Who or what can help me co-regulate? Practicing mindfulness, being aware of living in the present moment. You're going to see that this is something that comes up in every one of these: letting go, surrendering, and in forgiveness. You need to create new experiences. So I've got to engage in things that bring me joy. I have to choose to step out of the pain of betrayal trauma. I have to let it go at times, put it on the back burner to go in and do things that create joy, that are self-care, that help regulate me. So we want to start shifting the focus on more positive experiences and more positive opportunities so that you can see that letting go is actually beneficial. Of course, boundaries are always a part of it. So sometimes part of letting go is we have to let go of situations and we have to let go of people, which requires boundaries, especially those situations and those people who no longer serve you and who aren't healthy. You also have to learn how to communicate your boundaries very assertively in a very effective way. And then you've got to hold to the boundaries. That means you've got to stick to them. So, of course, that's a whole nother webinar. We can talk about that. And then lastly, seeking support. Letting go is a very hard thing to do. It is nice to be guided by somebody who understands how to do it, like a therapist, a counselor, some kind of a support group. It is much more effective. They will help you navigate. They will give you tools. They'll give you perspective and guidance in assisting you in letting go. Okay. So surrendering practices. I think of this as I choose to accept. So my recommendation is that everybody come up with their own acceptance statement or their serenity mantra or their serenity prayer, which is basically the same thing. And I shared this one a few months back, and this was shared to me by one of my clients, and it's actually attributed to Sonia Ricotti. And she says, surrender to what is, let go of what was, have faith in what will be. And of course, we know the serenity prayer from AA. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Another self-compassion one is, may I learn to be kind to myself while I heal. Learn to accept what has happened in my life and believe there is hope for brighter days ahead. So this is part of the surrendering. I'm accepting what is. So I have to learn how to drop into the moment and recognize what I'm sensing, what I'm feeling, what I'm telling myself. And then I have to choose to surrender it. So I have to maybe go in and ask some questions. So I'm going to share with you some questions that I find very helpful in the surrender process. The first one is, what is it like right now if I let everything be just as it is? So what would happen? So if I choose not to do anything, what is my actual experience at this moment? And what emotions, thoughts, and behaviors are preventing me from surrendering any pain, surrendering any hurt, surrendering any control that I have over the situation? So it's really good to get some clarity on that. Remember, I am not accepting the addict partner's behaviors. I am not. I am accepting the fact that I can live in the moment and I can have choices to let the pain, the hurt, the anguish go. That's what I'm surrendering. What is holding me back? What is hurting me? Really quick way to do this is to focus on stepping into gratitude. So this is a really great practice. So Know what you can do as far as your gratitude practices. Are you going to do the 3 good things every night? Are you just in the moment when you catch yourself? You're going to tell yourself 5 things you're grateful for in this moment. Are you going to journal about 1 thing you're grateful for and go back and read that so that you can, in the moment, step back into that place of gratitude? Very, very important. Self-compassion practices. Again, we talk about putting together a self-compassion creed. So again, it's kind of like your serenity prayer. You're going to have that so you can tell your brain that when this comes up, when that struggle comes up. And then, of course, with each of these, we can plan activities where we're going to represent the things that we need to surrender, the things we need to let go of, and the things we need to forgive. And so one of the exercises that's in practicing prodependence is you're going to make a list of 10 things that you can let go of, that you can surrender. And then you're going to go back and you're going to identify steps you can take for each one of those 10 things to let it go and to surrender it. And then if you want to, you can take it a little step further and you can do a ritual. So whether it's writing it on plates and going to the dollar store, getting those plates, right, and smashing them, writing it on rocks, going to the top of the mountain, and throwing them off, or it's writing them on slips of paper and burning it. That symbolic ritual oftentimes helps us and helps our brain to surrender and let things go. Okay. So forgiveness. I see this as I choose to pardon. So this is deeply personal. It's very individual. And some of these exercises are just some helps in getting to forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about forgetting what the person who has harmed us has done. It's not about giving them permission. It's not about the person who's harmed you. This is purely for you so that you can move on in your life and without the resentment and the hurt and the anguish that's associated with that. So, number 1 is self-reflection. I really need to reflect on my emotions and my thoughts regarding the person or the situation that's hurt me. Now, we do that throughout the process of working with a betrayed partner in individual therapy. And so we oftentimes will do a grief and loss timeline. So what the betrayed partner will do is they will literally go through and write down they'll self-reflect on, okay, here's all the ways that this person has hurt me. This is what I'm sad about. This is what I grieve over. Here's the consequences of this experience. Here's what I've lost. And they will put it together in an art piece. They'll even do it on a regular timeline. They can go into their therapist's office and work on it. I have several of my clients working on those now because it's so nice to go in and do self-reflection about the situation and the person with the help of your therapist. You can write a forgiveness letter. So I usually do it kind of 2 ways. First of all, I will have my clients write the letter that they want to write where they say exactly everything they want to say. They don't have to hold anything back. They can just write it with the understanding of we are not sending it at this point. We're only bringing it back into therapy and we're going to have you read it and we're going to process it. Then what you can do is you can go back, and after you've done a lot of processing, you can then go back and you can write the letter to the person who's hurt you. So that's where you're going to pour out your feelings, express your pain, your anger, and any other emotions that you've been carrying around. You're going to be very honest and raw in your writing, and you are going to basically let them know that you're letting go, you're surrendering those aspects of what they've done to you that are holding you back. It's not about forgiving them because their life will be better as a result, and it's not about forgetting what they've done. Okay. So once you've finished the forgiveness letter, you have the option of just tucking it away. You even have the option of sending it to the person. You can even burn it in a ritual if you want. Okay. Now here's one that some people are going to go, Debbie, why in the world are you telling me to do this? So part of forgiveness may be that you've got to practice empathy. So can you, as a betrayed partner, when you're at that point in your own healing recovery, can you step into the shoes of the addict partner to try to understand things from their perspective? Maybe it's the the experiences they've had when they were younger that created their own trauma that led them into this addiction. Maybe it's in the moment, how much pain they might be experiencing because they've hurt you so badly, but kind of just stepping in for just a moment to see if you can understand things from their perspective. Maybe you can try to understand their motivations, because oftentimes the addict partners do not have the skill set and the tools. So at the beginning, they're trying their very best. So can I kind of step into that and recognize that? It's very, very important that we practice even empathy as a betrayed partner towards the addict partner. What this helps us do is it helps us to gain greater understanding regarding that other person. And it can help us as we're moving towards forgiveness. We've talked about releasing through rituals. So I can't tell you how important it is to do something like that and to make it very significant so that you're kind of telling your brain to let that go. We've already talked about the mindfulness meditations. There's plenty of them out there. Some of them actually will lead you through some guided meditations on forgiveness, so you can practice those as well. And again, like I said, forgiveness is a very hard thing to do. And to me, the way I put it and the way I've experienced is that when I get to a place of forgiveness, I'm in a place of neutrality. What that means is I'm no longer allowing my hurt and my resentment, that was created in me and part of my experience, have any power over me because of what the other person did to me. And so for me, that's what forgiveness has been. So you can see these three things really are intertwined, and little by little, they're part of the betrayed partner's recovery. So like I said in the very beginning, I'll circle back around. If you're fairly new to recovery, then just choose one thing that you can let go of control of. If you're further in your recovery, then maybe it's time to go a little deeper and just kind of do that self-analysis and see, what are the things I'm holding on to? What are the things I need to let go of? And in that process, is there any situation or person that I need to forgive? So hopefully this has been very helpful in part of your healing.
It's always so great. And I was thinking, I mean, you were talking specifically betrayed partner and addicts, but like, life is messy. The people I've had to work hardest on forgiveness with are people that are not in the closest connections with me. And I was thinking about it, that place of neutrality. Yes, it's one of the things that was told me, and I've shared this on webinars before, but one of the things that was told to me, because I had a massive resentment, and it was truly, the behavior on the other person's side was wretched, but I was like, and the person said, you're letting that person live rent free in your head, which just incensed me, because I was like, no, you don't understand. And they're like, they are who they are. So even that part of, can you practice empathy? At some point I have to go, these are people who lack skills to do life differently. It was hurtful, whatever, but I'm spending all this energy. I'm spending my joy. I'm giving away my joy because I'm so busy. So it was really difficult. But it was the lessons that they told me. I have implemented them. Unfortunately, I've had to do that multiple times because other people come into my world that, that I end up on, on the betrayed side, the hurt side, the whatever side, and so getting to that place of neutrality is freeing, but it's not, it's not easy. I think it's really key that you were talking about that this is not like, oh, you just had discovery and now you need to practice these things and be Zen. I was also thinking, because, the letting go, and I was like, yeah, I let go. And then I'll go and grab it right back. And I have to, so even practicing the letting go, it's like, and it gets better, and I'm quicker to go, do you really need to pick that back up? Like you're talking about stones. I'm going, no, it's a boulder. And I've decided to pick this up and carry it again. And I don't want to. And so to be, to have the visual of, I don't need to lug this stuff around. I'm the one that's being weighted down. I'm the one that's being negatively impacted. Betrayed partners we know have, physical symptoms of the betrayal trauma and things. So getting to a place where we're feeling empowered and we're able to go, I am not, I am not going to be completely rocked every single time someone, including the addict, is doing something. I do have, I can choose, and I think it's even empowering to think I have a choice in how I act and react, because it feels like I'm just being buffeted by whatever's happening. And I don't have to be. I can go, wait, do I have is there a different way I can play this out, so that I am taking care of me as part of my healthy boundaries. So, you talked about like not getting stuck. Of course, there's anger and there's all of those things early on. But if that's the stuck pattern, I mean, like, again, it sucks the joy out of life in all areas. Because it doesn't just affect, this primary relationship that's fractured. It's, it is, affecting, other family members, children, work. I mean, all aspects has that, has that cloud over it. Let's see, there was a couple of more things and we've got some questions too. Oh, you said it can be so foreign, like to feel the calm. And I do think, and I know for addicts, that seek intensity, we will create chaos and drama because it's familiar, not that because we love it. Now, in recovery, I have learned I really don't have tolerance for that anymore. I lived in it. And, now it's like, I don't like that. So learning to tolerate the calm was something I had to learn to do because I just wanted to, go make some more drama. I love that you talked about, I choose to accept, because I think that that's really important that, and even what would it be like right now if I let this go? Like getting that to your prefrontal cortex and going, if I don't do anything or react in this moment, what's going to happen? And I've shared this before too. In fact, I've used it twice today already. Not my circus, not my monkeys. And to step back and go, because I see things and I just go, nothing good is going to come of it for me. I will be distressed because they aren't going to change, And so I had to let that go. And if people ask me for input or whatever, I will be happy to help and support. But on the other hand, it's like you get to do you, and I get to take care of myself so that I'm not impacted by you. So okay, we have questions. So I'm the betrayed partner. First discovery was 8 years ago of SA and drug abuse. Husband of 35 years that has not done the work for sobriety or recovery and is still acting out. I moved out 3 months ago and have done my work for the past year. I had to make the choice to move out and out of state in order to not be stuck in my healing and save myself from continuous trauma discoveries after 8 years of same thing, words, not actions. I'm moving into surrendering, knowing I will not have a disclosure or honesty from him and that our marriage is over. I still struggle with detaching emotionally and caring about him, as I know he is truly sick, even though I know I cannot and don't want to go back to the toxic environment. I abandoned myself and lost me. We have not talked by phone or seen each other for 3 months. He wants to see his adult kids and grandbaby, and I am staying with and said, he wants time with me. I'm not sure that is good for me to see him. Yet we never talked when I left, and I have not completely let go, but working at that. Wow. Thank you for sharing. The pain of, but also the realizations. Wow. So, okay. Thoughts?
Yeah. Wow. I just want to honor you, first of all. That is hard work, what you've done already. You have been through so much, and it's so difficult to be with somebody who is not doing recovery. The pain is so deep because there's something about not having that person to work with you, because we oftentimes, our deepest healing happens in relationship with other people. Just had this conversation with a client this week. And when it's my betrayed partner who's really betrayed me, my brain wants me to have them be part of that equation. And when they're not, there's this added layer, I believe, of grief and loss that's a part of that. I think that the choices you've made as far as choosing you over your husband's addiction is a very wise choice. It's a very hard choice. And when my clients have to make hard choices, when they're in a moment where they're really in their personal power, meaning I have clarity today, I am feeling good today as far as what my path is, my intuition is spot on, that's when you want to sit down and write that journal entry to yourself with all of the reasons why you need to be doing what you're doing. Because I recognize the fact that, detaching emotionally is very hard. My guess is that goes against who you are. You are probably a very caring and loving person, which most betrayed partners are. Remember, in codependence, we look at, you've made your best attempts in the past to making sure your partner was safe and secure so you can move towards him by mainly focusing on hopefully his recovery. Now you're choosing yours. So write in that journal all the reasons why what you're doing is the best choice, right? Make a list of, okay, when this comes up, I need to learn to let go of it or surrender it. I need to tell myself this. I'm all about really thinking through, okay, what can I do in the moment? And then having that reference so you can go back to when you're really, really struggling. I would recommend that you really work closely with a therapist who understands boundaries around this, because boundaries are really important as far as your own safety and your own healing. Because it sounds like you've got an addict partner, first of all, who isn't doing recovery, and as a result has no empathy, probably not a lot of compassion, and probably has some really ineffective communication skills and tools. And so for you, boundaries is going to be really important. The fact that he wants to spend time with you, right? Sit down with somebody and talk through all the reasons why that would not be good for your own healing and your own recovery, right? And then what are the boundaries that I need to put in place around that? And I've even had partners list all of the things that they need that their addict partner to be doing before they're willing to even consider communicating, because they've got to create the safety first. Right now, he is not a safe person. So remember, boundaries are about safety. So what can I put into place? And you, because you're kind of in the middle of all this, it's going to be really hard to figure it out and to kind of have some clarity on that. So like I said, go to a therapist who's trained in this, maybe talk to that Weiss friend who can give you some ideas. Use some of the resources here on sex and healing relationship. Go back and watch some of the webinars that we've done and some of the other therapists have done. Go into a drop-in group that they have here on sex and healing relationship, because there's some resources that'll help you as you're trying to let go and surrender this situation.
And I picked up on, he wants to see his adult kids and grandbaby. What do they want? Like, did they get, I mean, if the kids are all doing that, you guys, I 100% agree with Debbie. Like, what are the healthy boundaries for you around this? I mean, you said you moved out of state, so there's hotels, but I do the adult kids want to see them? What does that look like? As for if you want to talk to him, that's entirely up to you. I think journaling is a great idea, and having, he wants to see you for what purpose? If there's, if you're going to go through a divorce and there's some, or that he's going to sell, whatever, if there's some practical things, or it's a time limit, I will see you in the park for, 30 minutes. I'm making this up, so I'm not saying any, but like, be very specific. Addicts, we know, are highly manipulative. We know that they lie. And so making sure that you are safe, and that I always have a backup plan. Like when I was early in recovery, like I always needed to have my own transportation. So if an environment wasn't safe, I had the ability to leave. So, like not traveling to meet somebody or to be at a restaurant with somebody, whatever you need to do to create safety for you. But I go back to, he wants, and I'm like, what do your kids, and what do you want? I mean, what he wants is kind of irrelevant, so even the kids setting a healthy boundary about, if just because he's dad and grandpa doesn't mean he automatically gets to. He's lost, I'm sure they know what's going on, that he's lost trust within all of that. So a
Yeah,
lot.
that's a hard one because, like you said, addicts don't understand boundaries. So you go to set boundaries with them, and man, there's going to be a lot of resistance and pushback. I'm here to tell you that. So sometimes you're going to have to be, like you've gone no contact. And if you determine that you're going to have contact, it might be that it's email only, right? And it's only on this topic. And you've got to have real clarity on that, because remember, this is all about creating that space for you so that you can heal. You don't have to worry about him anymore. That's part of the letting go. You don't have to. You can, release and accept the fact that he's not in recovery. And so now what do I need to do for me in order to move on? So
Yeah, and on the Seeking Integrity site, Debbie did do 2 webinars on grief, and that's a process, and it's only been 3 months. There's plenty of of work for you to process through with that, just grieving the loss of the husband you hoped for, grieving the relationship, grieving spending time with grandkids together, all of that is, but on the other hand, I hope, and it sounds like you are going, that was toxic for me, I chose me. So it sounds like you are moving forward in a really positive way with support from family and grandbaby. What a fantastic support. That's support right there. So okay, next one is, no question today, just a huge thank you to both. I look forward to this webinar every 2 weeks. You know what? I do lots of these, and I bet I refer to Debbie's more often on just because of we were talking about it a little bit before I hit record, but the practical content. And I think it's so hopeful. It's like, you're feeling this or you don't even know what to do. Here are, some things that you can practically try, take what you need, leave the rest. But here are some things, and there's hope, because if you do these things, like you're talking about higher level things today, like being in a very different place than early discovery. So that means there's hope that you can not always feel the pain of early discovery and all of that trauma, that it is a process and hopeful. So, okay. I think having boundaries is a good way to not build resentments, rage, and feel that you don't have choices.
absolutely. I could go on and on about boundaries. Unfortunately, we don't learn growing up, most of us, how to have healthy boundaries. We think that boundaries are about punishment and control. And in reality, every boundary needs to be built upon the foundation of creating safety. So the fact is, if I am feeling resentment towards somebody, anger towards somebody, rage towards somebody, there is typically a boundary violation, or there is a boundary that needs to be put into place to create the safety. So it's really important that you educate yourselves on boundaries. One of the books that we recommend trade partners read is called Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Tawwab. Her last name is spelled Tawwab. Very practical, easy book to help you understand boundaries and how to set them and how to hold to them. Because the hardest part of a boundary is not just here's the boundary, here's the consequence, but it's holding on to and following through with the consequence. So typically when I have a boundary, the consequence is you're not safe for me to be in relationship with. So if you're treating me this way, talking to me this way, doing this, and I've asked you not to, there's a boundary in place, then the consequence is going to be, I need to step away from you to go create safety for myself. So typically when it is a consequence, and this kind of goes back to control, I can't control the other person that I put the boundary on. I only have control over me. So oftentimes that consequence needs to be, then I'm going to do this, which means then I'm going to leave the house and go drive around the block, or I'm going to go stay at my friend's house, for a night or two if you don't have children at home. or I'm going to consider separation. So you see that when I do a consequence, it's something I can act upon. So you're right. Whenever we have some type of a resentment, a rage towards somebody else, or you feel like you don't have choices, it is boundaries. So that book again was Set Boundaries, Find Peace, and the author's last name is Tawwab, Tawwab.
I'm going to put that in the chat for everyone too, because I looked it up on the website. So there's that, and yes. And I just talked to somebody again where they're talking about, I would create boundaries and he creates boundaries over them. And I was like, well, that I know. I was like, but I heard that I'm setting boundaries to control him, to make him do. And so I talked about that. But you are so right. People don't learn how to set healthy boundaries. You were also talking about emotions earlier, and I thought it, I think guys are not taught to have emotions other than anger and whatever, but women, it's not nice to, it's not nice if we act a certain way. I remembered this too, that during my many years of therapy, but I had a group session. It was a group therapy session, and the whole group is trying to get me to own anger, and I was like, no, you don't because it was like, no, that you don't understand, like it was a situation that it would be not nice of me to have any anger at this situation, because it just was complicated. But like when I finally was able to tap into like how much anger there was, it was so healing. Like that was so trapped in there under the no, that would not be nice. I would not be a nice person if I was angry at this person. I mean, like, it was insane how tight that was pushed in there from a societal no, good girls don't, you are not, we don't act like that. So getting in touch with that stuff in a healthy way, and being able, I love the journaling stuff. I think, what a safe place to just vent, and write down the truth, and then be able to pick through and go, what's really going on, in this. Take it to your therapist and they go, oh yeah, you're feeling neglected, you're feeling betrayed, you're feeling abandoned, whatever it is. You'll have the ability to go, oh, that's what's really in there, versus just the out of control anger. So
Yeah, back to the anger that you're talking about. I worked with somebody this past week who had a lot of anger. And one of the ways that we can let go of anger is through moving our body. And so my recommendation was that this person go home, make a list of everything they're angry about, and that they have to actually do an anger release. So with that, my recommendation is you get a racket and you hit your bed. If you've got one of those hanging, punching bags.
oh yeah.
If you can actually take a pillow and throw it against something, but what you're going to do is you're going to say out loud, what you're angry about, and it's going to come out, so you do it alone, and you just start getting that out and releasing that. If it doesn't feel safe to you, then have a safe friend or ask, your therapist to help you with that if they are trained in that. Because sometimes we have to get it out of our physical body as well. And that's one way of letting it go. Stop holding on to it.
Oh, I gut sobbed. I mean, like it was the wrenching sobs when I finally got in touch with it. It was so painful, but so healing. That was so knotted up in there. Like I so needed to do it. I'm grateful I did. Man, it was. It wasn't the most fun, but I still remember that. I mean, that was I don't know, 25 years ago. So okay. On this one, going back to the out of state, we have been texting only on practical home things and financials. That sounds like a great boundary.
Good boundary. Really good boundary. I like that.
Yeah. And you'll have to let us know what you choose to do, or if what the kids choose to do. And it's challenging because, if this is your home and their home and whatever, figuring out how would this even, what would this look like? And, and maybe it's meeting at the park, with the kids, but whatever, if they are willing. But yeah, I was really struck by, he wants to,
Yeah.
So what?
And it's hard oftentimes for the betrayed partner to focus on themselves. Many betrayed partners have not been good at that. Many are mothers, so it seems like everybody else comes first. And it is so important that the betrayed partner really focus on themselves and their healing and their self-care and what they need to do. Um, because in this moment, I need this and I can provide it for myself. So that's really important. I've had a thought as we've kind of been going through all this of another way that what helped me in my surrendering, my letting go, and in my forgiving. I had a very wise therapist, and one of the concepts she taught me in order to get over my pain and my hurt from the betrayal was and it was almost like stepping into different shoes where I saw this person as one of my greatest teachers.
Oh, wow.
In this moment, I am learning things as a result of this experience with you, meaning the
Mm.
person who's betrayed you. So, what is it I have learned? Well, I've learned that I matter as a betrayed partner. I've learned that it's okay for me to do self care, that in reality, when I do self care, then it benefits those around me. Or I am learning that I do have the ability to let go of things. Or this person has taught me maybe something you don't ever want to do. They can be an example of things that you don't want to repeat in your own life. So that kind of shifting it and making it okay. Thank you for showing up and being my greatest teacher. What are the lessons that I'm needing to learn in this? Is such a great way to kind of work through letting go, surrendering, and even forgiveness. So that's come to me several times. So I wanted to share that with you. That
Oh,
thought.
I love that. That is amazing. I too have had some amazing therapists that, so thank you for the work that you do. But that is, and I was quickly reflecting back on, yes, those painful experiences, the people that have hurt me the most, and I have learned the most. I have had to dig deeper. It's been a journey and all of that, but I have learned more, and I appreciate the aspects of the learning that I've done. I have to say, I'm thinking that I was trying to think if there's anybody that I've ever, no, I know for sure. I've never written a letter and sent it to anyone. And there's several people that honestly, I think if they knew that they had hurt me, they are of a nature that I think that they would be gleeful about that. And so the healing I had to do was for me, and they, some of them would not care, like they would have never known. Others just, honestly, that's just who they are. And so to just let it go and go, I'm taking back me, that's empowering and freeing.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, letting go, surrendering, and forgiveness really is about you, the person who's been betrayed. It's about your healing. You're the one who benefits in the long run. And so
Yes.
I just love what you said.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I love what you have shared, and all of it good, but that last nugget that your therapist shared, that was really beneficial too. So thank you. I look forward to seeing all of you too. Thank you for the questions. It's great. But yes, yours are so helpful and practical. I really appreciate the time and effort that you put into doing these, and being on the Seeking Integrity platform. So I'm grateful.
thank you. An honor.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.